Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Nick Cosgrove and I'm back with this week's No Filter Q&A. This is the episode where I answer all questions related to diet, training, and supplementation that I received over the last 7 days from our in-house clients, online clients, as well as a few of our online followers. Remember, if you have any questions related to your nutritional plan, workout program, supplements you are currently taking, not taking, or considering taking, please feel free to email me those questions at nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can DM me your questions on my Instagram at fitcosgrove_. All right, let's get started with this week's No Filter Q&A with question number 1. Nick, do you think AI can actually replace a human coach or trainer? Um, yeah, if that human coach or trainer is not very good or doesn't keep themselves updated or relevant in the industry, absolutely. But you have to remember, a lot of people hire trainers for the accountability factor. Okay, so an AI is not going to hold you accountable, right? So a lot of people, if you were to ask people who work with personal trainers, their top 3 reasons why they work with a trainer, accountability is going to be in there for sure, because there's so many times where you want to hit that snooze button, or you want to put off your gym session, or you want to go another day. But if you have bought and paid for a session and know that you're going to be charged, or know that someone's waiting for you at the gym, you're more likely to go to that session. Okay. You're less likely to sleep in. You're less likely to put it off. You're less likely to miss the workout. So the accountability factor is huge. But again, there's a lot of information out there now, both good and bad, that you can get on Chat GPT, right? So there's a lot of AI apps now that people are using to put together nutritional plans and training programs, and some of them are pretty good. But the accountability factor is huge. And I work with lots of people online designing nutritional plans and workout programs. And what separates me from an AI is that I take more of a customized approach with each individual that I work with. So based on my years of experience, I can troubleshoot when and where necessary. So if someone's not losing weight and I can't bring their calories down anymore, I have to troubleshoot and say, okay, do I increase activity? Do I rotate macronutrients? And I usually make those decisions based on my experience, what I've done with other people over the last 20 plus years. An AI is not going to be able to do that. An AI is going to give you a very general, generic format program to follow, a template that will work at the beginning. But once you hit that plateau and you stop seeing change, whether it be on the scale or in the gym with your strength or your physique, the AI is not going to be able to troubleshoot for you. Okay, it's going to just spit out another generic formula for you that may or may not work. So, working with someone who does have that experience, it makes a huge difference as far as where you're going to take your health and physique. Okay, so I can't say that an AI is not going to replace trainers and coaches, because listen, there's a lot of trainers and coaches out there that are not very good. And there's a lot of trainers and coaches out there that don't hold their clients accountable. I've seen some trainers not show up to their own sessions. So, yes, an AI can definitely replace an online fitness coach, an in-house personal training coach. But if you talk to a lot of people who hire trainers, the accountability factor is huge. So if you're a trainer that stays relevant in the industry, is constantly educating yourself on new trends that are coming out, new exercise techniques, new dietary nutrition protocols, supplement protocols, I think that you're going to remain relevant and you're going to remain popular. And it's a good career choice for you, because you're staying relevant in an industry that is constantly changing and evolving. All right. Next question. Nick, is it true that you can confuse your muscles by constantly changing workouts? No. I think what happened with the whole muscle confusion thing is that a lot of people think that they have to keep reinventing the wheel and they have to keep changing things. And the reality is, if you've put together a well-structured program that makes sense, as in that there's proper sequencing in place, you're using a combination of supersets, circuit training, giant sets, you're putting together a training split that makes sense, there's no reason to constantly change up your workouts. The only time I recommend people change up their workouts is if they've become stagnant in the gym. So you're doing a leg routine for 6 months and you're not really seeing changes, whether it be on your physique, your numbers in the gym aren't going up on certain exercises, as in the weight's not increasing, then it might be time to change up some of those exercises. Another thing too is, if you keep doing the same routine over and over again, you're putting a lot of pressure on the joints in those planes and ranges of motion. So let's say you're doing barbell back squats for 6 months, maybe take a month off barbell back squats and do some machine hack squats, right? So you're still doing squats, but you're taking a break from that plane and that range of motion. So then and only then would be the time that I'd recommend switching up your workouts, but not for muscle confusion. I don't think that going into the gym and doing leg press before barbell back squats is going to confuse your muscles. No, I don't. I don't think that's going to be a game changer. Okay. I think if you're approaching, and I talk about this time and time again, if you're approaching each workout methodically and you're approaching each exercise intelligently, there's no reason that you have to take an exercise out just to shock the body or confuse the muscles. Okay. And as for coaches and trainers that constantly change up people's programs, again, I think that they're just doing that for shock value. And really, it's just like I work with people online and I'll give them a training program and I'm like, why are we going to change this training program? It's working for you, right? Now, I will change a training program if for some reason someone says to me, hey, this exercise seems to really be bothering my shoulder. Maybe it's a barbell bench press. Okay, let's take out barbell bench press for a few weeks and let's put in some dumbbell bench press. Dumbbell bench press might allow you to have a little bit more mobility and flexibility because the barbell is more of a compound lift and it's more strict. Okay, so I'll make revisions based on the responses and the feedback that I get from my clients. But I don't just make changes for the sake of making changes. Obviously, with the nutritional plan, that's a little different because whether someone's trying to gain weight or lose weight, we do have to rotate their macronutrients accordingly. And I usually do that on a weekly, sometimes bi-weekly basis. But as far as the training program is concerned, I pretty much keep things the same unless there's certain exercises that are bothering somebody. Or if I'm not seeing changes in the person's physique after a few months, I'm like, maybe this exercise isn't working for you based on maybe your height, based on your weight, whatever that may be, based on your physical limitations. So let's take this exercise out and let's substitute with this exercise. But it's not to confuse the muscles. Okay, that is more bro science. So in my opinion, no, you can't confuse the muscles and you can't shock the muscles. You can train them intensely. And when you hit a plateau or you're dealing with a certain injury and there's certain exercises that are causing that injury or making it worse, then and only then, in my opinion, should you change up your workouts. All right. Another AI question. Nick, what's your opinion about fitness influencers using AI to enhance physique in photos and videos? I feel it's misleading. So, if you are a fitness influencer, I imagine that you're trying to use your physique to some extent to market your services. And by using AI to generate like Photoshop photos of your muscles or making your muscles larger or making your abs more defined, I think that's misleading. And honestly, I don't like that type of marketing. I've always been, if you go on my Instagram, I mean, my photos aren't filtered. It is what it is. They don't look the fanciest, but I've always been, even my no filter Q&A, it's very raw. I do it in one shoot. I don't edit it. I think people like that. People appreciate that. Like I make mistakes. I make mistakes when I talk all the time, right? I get caught up in my words. I don't care. I don't edit it. I just put it out there because I'm answering the questions to the best of my ability and I'm being as transparent as possible. And that's the same thing with my social media posts. And I do think people appreciate that. So I think when you're putting up a photo of yourself and it's not how you truly look, I think it's misleading. Um, I've had clients who work with me on weekly check-ins and they've sent me in photos that are, I don't want to say they're photoshopped, but they're definitely filtered. And I've had to actually tell people, do not send me filtered photos. If anyone needs to see how you look, it's your coach. I need to see how you really look. So that's why I ask people when they send me their photos on a weekly and sometimes bi-weekly basis, same time of day, same room, same lighting, preferably same outfit. So I see how your body changes on a weekly to maybe monthly basis. Okay. So I need to see what you look like. Okay. And so when I see trainers and coaches doing this online, I think it's misleading. And I really strongly don't support that type of marketing. I'm all about being fully transparent with my clients. If I don't know the answer, I'll try to find it for you. Okay. Or I'll ask someone who might know the answer. And I'll refer them. If it's a question like that regards, let's say, into physiotherapy, well, I'm not a physiotherapist, right? So, but I do know some physiotherapists who are very well knowledge when it comes to anatomy and physiology, and I can refer out. Same with a massage therapist, right? So it's good to know people in the industry and stay in your lane and know what you're good at and know the areas that you're not so good at. Not everyone's good at everything. I'm not an expert in every field in the fitness industry, but I feel like being in this industry for the past 20 plus years, I do understand how to build muscle, how to lose fat, how to improve overall health and well-being, and do this in a safe and effective manner. Okay, so I consider myself to be an expert in the field when it comes to that. But if someone's asking me about IMS, well, I don't do IMS, so I might send you to a physiotherapist. If someone's talking to me about they have really strong lower back pain, I might send them to an RMT. Sure, I can show you some stretches. I can do some PNF stretches on you, but it's probably not going to fix the problem completely. But going for a few massages, maybe going for some physiotherapy work, that might help. Okay. So as far as AI generated photos, again, I still think this is the same thing when people use like Chat GPT to write their posts or their blogs. It's lazy. And I think it's not honest, it's not authentic. And if you want to be a professional in your field, you have to constantly work on what you know. And by talking to people, whether it be on a YouTube post, on Instagram, writing posts, writing blogs, giving information from your own research, coming from your own words. Because when you do it yourself, I believe that you become better each time. I write all my own posts. I do all my own YouTube channels. And I feel like when you start relying on AI for that, you lose that. And at that point, it's like, well, why is someone paying for your services when they themselves can just go to AI? Right. So it's interesting that I'm getting more and more questions about AI. Obviously, it's becoming more popular now. But as I said in the first question, if you want to remain relevant in this industry, you have to constantly educate yourself and you have to constantly be looking at what's going on in the industry. And you have to stay relevant both online and in-house to find out what your clients are looking for. Because not everyone wants to look like a bodybuilder and not everybody wants to lose weight. So you have to make sure that you can help people, whatever their health and fitness goals may be, whether it's just actually being overall more healthy and fit or training for a particular sport or event. Okay. So you have to be well rounded as far as your education, and you have to know what you have to be able to know what your strengths are and know what your weaknesses are. And most importantly, remain transparent with your clients. All right. Nick, are supplements like BCAAs and pre-workout powders actually necessary? They're not necessary, but they're nice to have. I mean, I drink a BCA powder called Extend. I've been drinking that for years. I don't necessarily do it for the branched chain amino acid factor. I do it because I like the taste and I find it's easier to get in my 6 to 8 liters of water a day. I drink a lot of water, and so it makes drinking water more enjoyable. But I feel I get enough branched chain amino acids through my diet alone. If you're someone who does struggle with your diet, though, and you know you're not getting in all your nutrients, then you might want to pick up a BCA powder. Okay. As far as pre-workouts, I think pre-workouts have got a bad reputation, but if you're taking something that is relative, I shouldn't say high, I should moderately high in beta alanine and arginine and moderate in caffeine, I think they're fine to take. I wouldn't recommend taking an espresso and taking a pre-workout at the same time. No. But if you're someone who's very sensitive to caffeine, you obviously want to avoid pre-workouts that contain caffeine. But a good pre-workout, in my opinion, will contain some beta alanine and some arginine. Again, the dosages don't have to be incredibly high, but they're not necessary. Okay. I feel like you can get the same benefits from having a cup of coffee. So if you are working with a budget, my recommendation is to always put the money towards food before supplements. Always. And I've said this before, in my opinion, 90% of the supplements out there are garbage. And I'm talking about the over-the-counter supplements. They don't work. So the mass gainers, the fat burners, anything that you can buy legally over the counter in a supplement store, in my experience, in my opinion, it's a waste of money. Okay. So like I said, BCAs are nice to have, pre-workouts are nice to have, but they're not necessary. Mass gainers, garbage. They're just going to make you gain fat. Fat burners, garbage. You're not going to lose any fat. You'll probably lose some water. The stuff that works, unfortunately, is the stuff that's illegal. Anabolic steroids, they work, but they're illegal. Fat burners such as Cytomel, clenbuterol, Ozempic work, but again, unless you can get a prescription for them, illegal. So I always tell my clients, don't waste your money on that garbage. Put your money towards the food and the training because you'll get much, much better ROI on that than you ever will from over-the-counter supplements. All right. Nick, what are the top 3 exercises for building bigger glutes? Well, barbell back squats, number one. Absolutely. That is primarily, if done correctly, a great glute exercise. You know, when people squat, your quads are obviously going to be the dominant muscle group, right? But if you can tap into your glutes and hamstrings, when you squat, you'll actually push more through the gluteus maximus than you will through your quads. So I feel that barbell back squats are the number one exercise for building bigger glutes. Barbell hip thrusts are another excellent exercise for building bigger glutes. One mistake I see is a lot of people, well, women are the ones that typically would do the barbell hip thrust. Some guys do, but I see a lot of women doing barbell hip thrusts. In my opinion, they go too heavy and they don't use full range of motion. So when you're doing a barbell hip thrust, it's so important that you bring your glutes as low to the floor as possible, and then you bring your hips up as high as possible to the ceiling on the up face. Where I see a lot of people doing in the gym, or what I see a lot of people doing in the gym, is half range motion. You want to really engage the gluteus maximus and minimus to the best of your ability. You have to use full range of motion. So I would say barbell hip thrust done properly, and not machine hip thrust, barbell hip thrust done properly are another great mass builder for your glutes. And another exercise that a lot of people don't even consider a glute exercise, straight leg deadlifts, which work primarily your hamstrings. But you have to remember, if you have strong striated hamstrings, that's going to complement your glutes. So it all ties in. So it's not a direct glute exercise. I mean, you are working your glutes indirectly with any deadlift, but a straight leg deadlift is going to work those glutes indirectly. Your primary muscle group being the hamstrings, but your hamstrings tie into your glutes. So when I work with a lot of women, when I give them their leg workouts, a circuit I like to do with them are barbell back squats with straight leg deadlifts and barbell hip thrusts. And I'll throw 3 or 4 rounds of that in. And anyone who works with me will tell you, once that circuit's done, the next day, they really feel their glutes. Okay. And I attribute that to that particular circuit. It's a great circuit. Obviously, if you're working in a commercial gym, it's going to be a little bit more challenging to do a circuit like that. Not impossible, though, because as long as you have 2 barbells and a pair of dumbbells, you can do it. But if you don't want to occupy too many pieces of equipment, basic straight sets fine. In this case, I would throw in some drop sets. And I've talked about drop sets in the past, but if you're doing barbell back squats, let's say on your last set, throw in a triple drop set, barbell hip thrust, maybe throw in a double drop set, straight leg deadlift, same thing, double or triple drop set. That's a great way if you're doing basic straight set training. Okay. If you want help putting together a lower body program, you can always email me at nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can DM me on my Instagram, Fit Cosgrove. I work with tons of people, both online and in-house, and both. And I put together programs customized specifically for that individual's goals, level of fitness, gender, the frequency they can come to the gym, and what muscle groups they really want to focus on primary. So in this case, it might be your glutes, hamstrings, quads. All right. Nick, do you think the bench press is overrated for chest development? I don't feel comfortable bench pressing without a spotter and usually train on my own. Oh, as I usually train on my own. Sorry. Um, the bench press, it really is a great exercise. And the reason it's a great exercise is because it works multiple muscle groups. So I put it up there with the barbell back squats and to some degree, even deadlifts, even though I don't do deadlifts, but these are great exercises for building mass. Now, I've talked about in the past how I don't believe the doing flat barbell bench press at the beginning of a workout is a good idea. And that's what a lot of people do. They go into the gym and they start doing flat barbell bench press. And I think that's a big mistake because 80% of your pec major, which you're working in a barbell bench press, is located up top. So it makes more sense to switch that flat to an incline. And if you want to preserve your joints, as in your rotator cuffs and your anterior deltoids, my recommendation, use a low incline. If you're not familiar or certain as to what I'm talking about, go on my Instagram. I've got lots of videos of me bench pressing on a low incline. And that's how I always start my chest workouts. Okay. So I feel like that's a great exercise. I still do flat barbell bench press as well, but that's always my second exercise. Sometimes it's my last exercise, but it's never my first exercise. Okay. Now, as far as not having a spotter, well, I usually train on my own as well. I don't have a spotter, but I always pick a weight that I know that I will not easily, but that I will always get a minimum of 8 reps with. So I never take a new weight where I'm like, oh, I might only be able to do 3 or 4 reps. Like, no, I know I can do 8 reps with this weight. And again, this is being more in tune with your body because there's some workouts I go in where I have to lift a little bit lighter. Maybe I didn't get as many meals the day before. Maybe my sleep wasn't as effective. Maybe I'm not hydrated. For some reason, I'm feeling weaker on that particular day. And that's why it's so important to listen to your body and have that mind to muscle connection while you're working out. And this is why I tell people all the time, you shouldn't be on your phone cruising TikTok or Instagram during your sets. You should really be in tune with your body and say, okay, how was that set? How did that feel? Did I feel that more in my joints? If I did, maybe I should back the weight off or take the weight down, whatever it may be. Am I feeling strong today? Hey, let's go up. Maybe we're going to try a new weight. But my recommendation, if and when you are going to try a new weight and you are uncertain, ask for someone to spot you. Most people don't mind. I work in a private facility and I have trainers that ask me to spot them. I don't mind. It takes an extra 30 seconds for me to do it. Okay. So I do feel that the bench press, the flat bench press, I feel is an overrated exercise, but I feel that the low incline barbell bench press is one of the most effective exercises for building an upper chest. Okay. So will dumbbells work? Yes. But again, I recommend doing both. So in a chest workout, like my chest workout, I'll start off with a low incline barbell bench press, go to a flat barbell bench press, and I'll go to a high incline dumbbell bench press. And I'll usually do about 5 sets per each exercise with the drops at the end. So I'm doing about 18 sets of presses, and then I'll throw in some dumbbell flies, cable flies, and call it there. And that's worked really well for me over the years. But I'm not going to sit here and say that dumbbell presses are not as effective as barbell presses. But if you were to ask me if barbell presses, low incline barbell presses are one of the most effective exercises, I'd have to say yes for the factor that they work multiple muscle groups and it is a compound movement, which is going to equate to more of a mass gain, more muscle gain, and overall better chest development. Okay. Nick, can you make a six-figure income in the fitness industry today and how? I would like to go back to school to become a personal trainer, but I'm not sure if it can be a viable full-time career. Never mind six-figure, you can make a seven-figure income as a personal trainer. Okay. And how you do it is you have to learn how to scale because you can't do it doing one-on-one sessions all day, every day. That won't work. I mean, if you're doing that and you're doing it 40 hours a week and you're charging 150, $180 an hour, you're going to have a pretty good income. You're going to make maybe about 200K a year. That's not a bad income, but you have to be able to scale it. Okay. So whether that be offering group classes, online coaching, nutritional plans, even you can go into selling some supplements if you wanted to. You could sell some fitness equipment if you wanted to. So you have to look at different streams of revenue. But you can definitely make good money as a personal trainer. But again, it comes back to that first question. You have to be good at what you do, and you have to be able to offer a service that people feel is valuable to them. Because if you're offering cookie cutter services that they can just get online or they can get at one of those cheap fitness classes, why would they come to you? Right? So you have to make sure that whatever you're charging, that you can back up your rate with your level of service. So for example, with me, I've never been late for a session. I've never canceled a session last minute unless for some reason I had to go to the hospital or something happened. But I could count on one hand how many times I've had to cancel a session, okay, in 20 years. So I also know that when it comes to getting back to people, whether it be through email, whether it be through text message, I don't let an email sit for less than 3 or 4 hours ever. I always respond to my emails as soon as possible. I don't take the weekend to respond to an email. I don't do that. That's me though. And I charge a certain rate for that because my clients, they expect a certain level of service. And for the rate I charge, I'm going to give them the best level of service I possibly can. Okay. So I'm not going to take 3 or 4 days to respond to an email. If I tell someone I'm going to have their program ready for them on a Tuesday, I'll usually have it ready for them on a Monday. Okay. So it's going above and beyond. If I don't know the answer to a question, I'm very transparent. I'll tell the person, I don't know, but let me look into it for you. And I do because I feel because my clients are paying a certain rate that they deserve that level of service. Okay. Now, I'm not in competition with the cookie cutter box gyms that are charging $30 or $40 a month. That's not my competition. We're completely separate entities. I'm not working against those people. I'm not saying anything bad about those people, but that's not the clientele that I'm looking to attract. Okay. I want to attract people who don't necessarily feel like they have to cheap out on their health, on their fitness, and look for the best deal. I want to work with people who want to see results and understand that they're going to have to put their money into their health and fitness, whether that be with myself or with their diet, their supplements, in order to get the best ROI. And these are the type of people that understand that they have to spend money in order to do this. And they don't think it's a waste of money. They don't think personal training is a waste of money or eating clean is a waste of money. They see value in it. Okay. And that's the type of clientele that I work with. And I feel for me that working as a trainer in this industry now for 20 plus years, you can definitely make a very good income. So forget about six figures. You can make seven figures, but you have to learn how to scale and you have to make sure that you're continuing to offer a top level service. I think a lot of times what we see is we see a lot of trainers, they start to get really busy and their service becomes diluted, right? That same level of service starts to diminish, whether that means they're not getting back to emails as quickly, whether that means that they're burnt out on the floor. So they're just giving people very generic programs. Everyone gets the same copy and paste program. You start to see it. So it's important that you make sure you give yourself those rest days where you can unplug. I have one day where I don't work with anyone on the floor. I work with everyone online. That really helps me stay fresh so I don't burn out. And so for me, it keeps things interesting and fresh so I don't burn out and I can remain a source of reference and education to my clients, and I can still allow them, or I can still provide them with that top level service. So absolutely, if you're good at what you do and you stay educated, you stay relevant, and you continue to provide that top level service, six figures, sure. Seven figures, easily. All right. Nick, what are the must-have kitchen gadgets that make meal prep easier? I want to start prepping all my meals ahead of time so that I don't keep ordering my food out. Let me think. My top three, or maybe my top four, food scale. Okay, I've been using a food scale since 2008. I can't meal prep without one. Glass Tupperware, because it's not good to microwave with plastic Tupperware. So glass Tupperware, that's another one. Um, aluminum. Aluminum's huge. So I cook both my salmon and my chicken and my cod in the oven, and I like an easy, clean prep. So I always put it on aluminum tinfoil on a baking tray, wrap it, tastes better, easy cleanup. There's basically no wash at all because it's on the aluminum, throw the aluminum out, done. So aluminum foil, that I go through so much aluminum foil. Um, that's another one. A rice cooker. God, I've gone through so many rice cookers over the years. My rice cookers usually last about a year because I use my rice cooker 3 or 4 times a week. So that makes cooking rice so much easier. I mean, you can use a pot, obviously, stove, but rice cooker just saves you so much time, so much hassle. Again, it's the cleanup factor. The rice doesn't stick to the pot. It's easy. I mean, I've cooked rice in a pot before and it always sticks and it takes forever to clean. I'm like, no, it's rice cooker, done, easy, throw it in the dishwasher, done. So it's not just that these are essential, it's just that it makes meal prepping so much easier. Another one, oh, a good pot. So when I cook my ground turkey, I like to have a really good pot. Again, a non-stick pot. So when I cook it, it's very easy to cook and it doesn't get, again, the food doesn't get stuck at the bottom. I just run it under the faucet, easy clean with some dish soap, done. So I find like a good pot is really important to have too. I've had my same pot for about, God, 5 years and it's great. I cook all my ground turkey in there. Um, Obviously, you want to get a good cutting knife as well. So I've spent quite a bit of money on my knives over the years because, I'm cutting raw chicken, I'm cutting raw fish. I want something it makes it really easy and again, efficient and quick. So you want to make sure that you have a good cutting board, good cutting knife, makes perfect. Okay, so that's what I recommend, but definitely a food scale is up there. Glass Tupperware, because you really shouldn't be heating your food up in plastic Tupperware. So I think I've got about like 30 or 40 glass Tupperware containers in the house. Um, and then again, aluminum foil for baking, a baking tray, a pot. God, and the knives, the cutting knives are huge because it does make cutting up vegetables and everything so much easier too when you have really good cooking knives. So I recommend investing in like some gourmet chef knives because they're really effective and it makes it much more easier to cut everything up and prep it. And finally, measuring cups. Okay. So, I mean, for measuring out my oats, measuring out my rice, I like to use measuring cups. So I'll use like a 1 cup measure, half cup measure, 1/3 of the cup. When I used to diet, I would change up my macros on a weekly basis. So it was really beneficial to have my food scale and my measuring cup. So I just divvied up everything based on what my macronutrient rotations were for that week. Okay. Because usually with stuff like rice and oats, cream of rice, I measure egg whites. And then with other things like, with sweet potatoes, yams, chicken breast, cod, tilapia, salmon, I weigh. Okay. So that's what I recommend. There's probably a few more out there, but those are staples that I always use and that I recommend my clients use just to make meal prepping more efficient and faster. Because if you don't have all that stuff, and you're looking for rice cookers or you're cooking in pots and you're looking for knives and your knives aren't very good and you don't have a measuring cup, so you're eyeballing, it just makes it a little bit more like unorganized, and you really want to streamline this to the best of your ability. And I've talked about how I can cook up 42 to 50 meals within an hour and a half every week. I don't need a whole Sunday fun day to meal to dedicate to my meal prep. Hour and a half max, and I'm good for the week. So it just streamlines everything and makes it way more efficient to prep it properly. All right. Okay. Next. Oh, last question. Nick, what's your advice for someone who feels intimidated walking into the gym for the first time? I have no idea what I'm doing, and I'm afraid of being judged while I work out. If you don't know what you're doing, you should invest in the services of a personal trainer. And I've talked about this before. This will be the best ROI you ever make on your health, your fitness, and your physique. Okay. And you don't have to book a 50 session package. If you can afford to work with someone, say, you know what, I can afford to work with a trainer for 6 sessions and I can dedicate this much money. I can put this much money aside because this is going to be for my health. This is going to be for my fitness. And working with a reputable, knowledgeable trainer is going to allow you to not only work out more efficiently, but that person is going to teach you how to train properly so you don't injure yourself. Okay. And if you're going to work with a trainer, you want to make sure that you do your research on the person. So make sure that person has, I've talked about this in the past, Google reviews, testimonials. You want to make sure, hopefully they have a website so that you understand that this is their career. They're all in. They're not what I call a weekend trainer, someone who does this as a side job or a side hustle. You want someone who is all in. Okay. So I always find that the trainers that do this full time are the best trainers because this is it for them. This is their income. This is their source of income. So if they want to continue to have a good income, they have to remain good at their job. Okay. They can't afford to slack off because they have another job or they have more money in the banks coming from another stream of revenue. So I feel like if you're going to work with a trainer, you want to work with someone who does this full time and is reputable and knowledgeable, comes with testimonials, comes with Google reviews, has a website, and stays relevant in the industry by posting online, whether it be through Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, whatever it may be. Okay. So I would look for those things. Um, as far as being judged, I can tell you right now, no one's watching you. They don't care. People are not there in the gym to watch you. People are so focused, well, they should be focused on their own workouts. I mean, some people are focused on their phones, but people are so in tune of what they're doing, they're not looking at what you're doing. I couldn't tell you when I've trained at commercial gyms what someone is doing, what workout they're doing, because I'm not watching. If they're not my client, I don't care what they're doing. Okay. And I'm not saying that to be mean. It's just that why would it matter to me? It's not my business. Many times, even in my own gym, when I've done work training a client and someone's doing something incorrectly, whether it be another tenant in a building or maybe it's a trainer's client, and my client will say to me, well, why don't you correct them? I'm like, A, they're not my client, and B, my time is spent with you. It's not spent correcting someone else. And even in my own workouts, I don't do that. I don't offer unsolicited advice. I'm not that person in the gym that says, oh, you should do it this way. If someone doesn't ask me, I don't provide it. Okay. So people aren't watching what you're doing. But I strongly advise you, if you really don't know, because you say you don't know what you're doing, invest in the services of a personal trainer. Not a small group class, a personal trainer. Because I've had people come to my small group classes over the years who have no idea what they're doing. And a lot of them do it to save money. And I tell them, I'm like, I'm not going to tell you not to do this, but you're not going to receive that same level of service that you need right now. Because if I have 8 people in my class, there's no way I can give you that undivided attention that you so desperately need in order to take your health and physique to that next level. And you do risk injury. And so it's not fair to ask one trainer to be able to give each person in that group class a customized workout or individual attention. Most of my clients who've been with me in my group classes have been with me for 10 plus years. So they know what they're doing. They don't need that individual attention. So that's why I always recommend that new clients work with myself or one of the trainers for at least 6 sessions, preferably 12 to 20 though, so that they really get a good understanding of how to train properly in the gym. And that includes proper form and technique, proper breathing, proper tempo speed, how to sequence muscle groups properly, how to sequence exercises correctly. So there's a lot to learn. And it's hard to learn that in just one session. I even think it's difficult to learn that in 6 sessions. That's why I generally recommend people to book at least 12, maybe 20, 24. And that's not me trying to push sales. That's just me being honest. Okay. And honestly, most people that do that, they see the benefit in it. And we've had so many people that once they work privately with us, they like it so much that they stay private. They might do a few group classes in addition to their private sessions, but they really see the benefit in private training over group classes because they do get that individual attention. So again, if you can budget for it, it's money well spent. It's not a waste of money when you're talking about your health and your fitness and your physique. People spend more money going out for dinner and drinks than they do on one personal training session easily. Okay. And besides the entertainment value and maybe the social component, that offers very little in what you're going to get from a personal training session for your health physique. So it's like a long-term investment versus throwing your money away at a restaurant, having a few drinks at a bar. Okay. So that's my recommendation. Hire a trainer. And I promise you, no one's looking at what you're doing. People don't care. And if they do, the hell with them, forget about them. But in my experience, people are so focused on their own workouts, they're not going to be focused on what you're doing. Anyway, that's it for this week's No Filter Q&A. This episode will be going up on Monday, April the 29th, or sorry, Monday, April the 28th. As a reminder, if you have any questions related to your nutritional plan, workout program, supplements you are currently taking, not taking, or considering taking, please feel free to email me those questions at nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can DM me your questions on my Instagram at @fitcosgrove_. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for supporting my YouTube channel, my online coaching business, as well as my in-house personal training business here in Vancouver, British Columbia. I truly do appreciate all the support and feedback that I receive from each and every one of you. Thank you all again, and I will see you all next week. Bye for now.